Welcome to the Phillip Wylie Show. Take a look behind the curtain of professional hacking and hear compelling discussions with guests from diverse backgrounds who share a common curiosity and passion for challenges and their job. And now, here's your host, offensive security professional, educator, mentor, and author, Phillip Wylie.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Phillip Wylie Show. Today I'm very happy to have Han Kanthi joining. We met at Triangle InfoSec Con recently and we had a good conversation there and thought he'd be a good guest. So I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and thanks for joining.
Phillip, thanks for having me here and good to be here.
Yeah, it was a very fun conference. One of my favorite things about conferences is meeting new people. And so it was a pleasure to meet you and I enjoyed our conversation there. So look forward to our conversation today. And for those listening, this is the first episode of 2025, first episode of season 3. So it's an honor to have you as number 1 on season 3.
How lucky I am. Thank you, Phillip.
So how is your year-end wrapping up for you?
Year-end, I would say it's all things started coming together and to the culmination for the year-end. I would say overall nice things, few things that we thought we would do based on our roadmap line items. They slipped into the next year, but can't complain, I would say, given the bandwidth that we have on the team and the passion that drives us every day, I would say we are on par pretty much.
That's great to hear. I know some companies get real busy this time of year. Some are a little bit slower. It all just depends on the type of organization. I know some companies, like I have had friends that worked at HP and like the last half of the year, last half of December, they were out for the rest of the year. And then you take people in consulting, people are trying to spend that budget up so they don't lose it next year. And so it can be busy or not so busy depending on the type of industry you're in.
Absolutely. Especially the big thing for this year, I would say, is given the adoption rate of the AI and ML, we shouldn't have got onto the bandwagon of bringing those capabilities into our platform. So we literally, I would say, more than half of our platform revamped, leveraging explainable AI and every cool thing that we can do and leverage the capabilities out there and bake them into our platform. So that's, I would say, if one thing I can call out, the biggest achievement from the team and for the platform this year, I would say embracing the AI, embracing the Gen AI, how innovative that we can be to solve the problem that what we are actually solving with our platform. So that's pretty exciting to see those things come together.
Yeah, it sounds exciting. Before we dig too deep into what you're doing now, I always have my guests share their hacker origin story. So if you wouldn't mind sharing your background, kind of how you got started and what you're doing today.
Absolutely. My background, 24 years of corporate world experience before I started my entrepreneurial journey, I would say. 23 years-ish. And out of that 23 years, 20 years with a big corporation. In that 23 years, I would say I'm so lucky to have, played varied roles all the way from a technology guy into a business guy. I was a management consultant, BPM consultant, an architect, SOE, SOAR, back in the day when it was a big thing. And, when I started, this is it, technical is good, great, I enjoy it, but you know what, it's time of the, time in my life where I need to shift gear and move towards my end goal, which is, to do what I'm currently trying to do here, right? So I started making myself and walking towards that step. So started taking roles in the management, start off as a marketing manager, and then slowly drifted into the product management, and I have done that and all of that, portfolio management and whatnot. So all that experience really, I can clearly see through helping me out what I'm doing today. So lucky to have, great mentors as well along the way. Can't thank enough all the mentors that mentored me, the great guys. So thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of them as well. So to answer your question, when I started my entrepreneurial journey, obviously I started KDS Global as the cloud migration consulting company, right? Helping as a system integrator, focusing on cloud migration projects. But then, as we started our journey within less than a year, at the beginning, at the very beginning, I would say 2020, late 2020-ish, when the pandemic was peaking up, right? We started seeing a lot of breaches across the world. And long story short, looking at all those breaches, it was very clear to me that, I have to start looking deep into some field within the cybersecurity. So I started doing some of the hackathons around the identity space to begin with. So that's where we started working on an IGA for multi-cloud, right? And then see, how we can leverage IGA capabilities for the multi-cloud. Then we ran that about 4 months, and then immediately we realized that IG is a very niche area. Absolutely, is a good to solve problem, but we need to expand the aperture into the bigger on the space, which is IAM. So we started looking into and start baking into the capabilities around the IAM into the platform, and then so that's the second time we pivoted, right? And then looking more deep into all the breaches that's been taken around the world. Every week, on an average, there was a one or two breaches, some part of the world, right? The data breaches. Then we thought, okay, you know what? Wait a minute. Let's take one step back. This is great that we are working on IG. We worked on IGA and, pivoted into the IAM. But then, hackers are behind these, identities. They want to steal your identity and my identity. But what the hell are they going to do with the identities? They're actually trying to leverage these identities to get to the crown jewels of the enterprise. Guess what's a crown jewel? We all know that. It's data, right? Then it was very clear to me, you know what? Let's put the mouth where the cash is, right? Let's start looking into the data security in particular. That's when we pivoted yet again into, start building the capabilities around the data security. So that was a third pivoting we did. So along that way, we definitely, I was part of a lot of hackathons locally here in neighboring states, Virginia and Georgia as well. And work with a number of folks looking into some of the hackathon things, and then see how we can break the things and get into the systems. It was very clear to me. Is basically data security is a thing that we need to solve. It was a big thing back then. I'm talking about early 2022-ish, late 2021 and early 2022. But then once we started, focusing on data security, a couple of months right after, we have seen a big announcement from Gartner saying that Gartner announced this MQ for DSPM, Data Security Posture Management. When we saw that, and right before that, a few months before we started working on data security, then we thought, okay, you know what? This is it. Gartner announced it. Gartner is just not going to do MQ without seeing a traction for that in the marketplace, right? So when we saw that, we literally jumped off of the chair and we thought, okay, oh, you know what? This is it. We are not, pivoting anymore. We got our silver spoon, the golden spoon, I would say. Let's move let's put all, chips on the table and let's go, full force on this. Since then, we never had to look back. I would say, here we are. And then just to give you a bit of a bit of a background about the product capabilities, we started working on this product as part of my Cadence Global company, right? And then, given the traction we started getting with the some of the MSPs, it was very clear that we need to establish some brand for this DSPM platform. So we created a DBA within the Cadence Global. And Ansel is the name of that. Ansel.ai is the name of the product here, right? And basically, Ansel still rolls up into my parent company, which is Cadence Global. It's all one organization still. In a way, if I have to say that, we have both consulting capabilities and also the cybersecurity product capabilities. I know I gave you a long answer, but yeah, that's a bit of a background.
Yeah, very interesting. And it's really cool to hear your background because you see a lot of people in startups these days just kind of the leadership where they come from. I've seen companies where someone was more technical, they become the CEO of the company, that they're one of the founders, and they don't always have that business acumen. And sometimes they're not always cut out for that, but sometimes they don't see that. Because one example that I like to share of like a founder that kind of did the right thing because maybe he wasn't cut out to be the CEO, just like Casey Ellis from BugCrowd, the founder of BugCrowd. He's the CTO. He focused on what he did good and then hires CEOs that know the business side of things. So it's really interesting to see that. And one of the experiences I've had here at Horizon 3 is to see someone like Snehal. I mean, he is a CEO and definitely perfect for the role. I mean, because not everyone is not understanding the business, the vision, and the strategy. Sometimes they understand the nuts and bolts of the technology. Sometimes they're too close to it to really keep an open mind and listen to their sales staff. So I see where that's a fine balance to be made. And I'm sure your background has really made it easier for you to be a CEO that understands, the people that are working on the product to the sales folks as well as product folks.
Absolutely, absolutely. You bring up Snehal's name. Absolutely, I respect Snehal very well. Yeah, we in the corporate world when we used to work together, we used to talk together, and then I watched his journey, and it's pretty amazing to see where he is now with all the background that he had. So I really respect him.
Yeah, I've got a lot of respect for you guys that are able to that take the risk, have the vision, and go out there and make that vision a reality. Just to take that risk, because so many people aren't willing to take that risk. But has that risk been worth it for you so far?
I would say touch wood, yes, it is. And I coached myself. Why in the world I did not start this 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, right? So, I mean, when you're a part of the corporate world, you think, you're a technology guy, you don't have a business acumen and all that. When I started doing my MBA and all that, it was very clear to me that I have to depart sooner or later. But it's just that you look for that right time, right? And then when that right time came in, I said myself, okay, you know what? This is it. If I don't make this hard jump right now, it's now or never. So that really made me to do that jump. That's point number one. Point number two is absolutely, it's not an easy thing. You have to make sure that a lot of, all the chips fall in place for you, right? So I had definitely great support from the family, no doubt about it. And then great support from the friends and the extended, family friends as well. And then my childhood friends as well. So, and my mentors too. So everything what I learned and seeing them grow them, Snehal is definitely one of them, I would say, right? Although, him and I, we never spoke after he made big jumps, but I was watching him, everything what he has been doing. So anyway, long story short, it's a painful, and it was indeed painful for the first 3 years. I'm not going to, sugarcoat here saying that it was easy right for me. But after 3 years, when I started seeing the light, then I'm like, okay, this is it. I need to take it to the next level. And here we are. We are definitely making some difference in the marketplace. And I know we still have to. We have a long way to go before we can make that big mark, I would say. But the risk that I have taken is definitely worth so far.
Good. So I'm sure it's got to be interesting to kind of to learn the business side, because you mentioned MBA, so going to school for business versus what you see in the real world. I mean, what kind of lessons have you learned from actually putting this into practice?
Well, I would say you don't really need an MBA for that matter. So what you really need is I would say the willingness and passion and the courage, right? These things, they sound very simple and straightforward, but not everyone makes that leap. And then to me, I would say, if I'm just going to give my part of the story, right? Daughter was still in high school when I started this entrepreneur's journey, and I knew that I had a 2 years of buffer to make her not make it, right? Then I started, okay, you know what? This is definitely the time, because if I cross this milestone, I'm never going to get this opportunity again to try something like this. So that moment wasn't easy to make that decision. But once I made the decision, it was still rough for first couple of years, because you learn a lot of things, right? Does your MBA teach? Absolutely. The fun is book knowledge. You're always going to get, what's marketing, product management, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. But unless and until rubber meets the road, and then you do it and you get your hands dirty in the weeds, you're not going to, get any exposure to that. So I really feel so lucky to have some practical experience in my corporate world. Have done that marketing, have done that product management, have done that management as well myself. And then of course, not to mention, as part of my consulting, I work with the close to 100 plus customers in the span of 23 years. That was a huge thing for me to see through, different customers in the different industries. And my engagements back in the day used to be anywhere from, 1 day to 1 week to even 1 month or 2 months, right? But when you walk into those customers, and then customers look at you and they pay you big bucks on an hourly basis, and they want you to solve big problems, right? And sure enough, I knew that I can't solve every problem of what the customers asking for. But what I knew was, how do you crack the game to start solving those problems? The only way you can do that is with your network. If you don't have a good network of your friends and in your corporate world and the colleagues, you won't be able to do that consulting gig. Trust me. And that having that background, having that network, wide network within my corporate world really helped me out to navigate through those consulting gigs. And then everything what I learned there is really helping me out even now in terms of not just the connections, right? But most importantly, how do you see through the problem from the different lenses when you walk into the different doors? As you know, every customer is a different animal, right? So they all have different kind of problem, different culture, if you will. You're trying to sell, same solution again and again to the different doors, but you gotta, not only massage your messaging to tailor to the needs of the specific customers, but at the same time, you need to convince them based on their culture, how your capabilities are going to fit into that. So anyway, long story short, all that background really helped me out and still helping me out to navigate even today.
So what was one of the most difficult things for you to learn? Because I mean, I know you had all these other various backgrounds, but how is it to really learn the sales piece? Because I know a lot of people get into this coming from a technical background, maybe consulting, but just, wrapping your head around the sales thing and figuring out how to do that optimally.
Yeah. That's a great question. You hit on the nail by asking that question, right? Sales, if you don't have the sales acumen, you either have it or you don't have it. And is it something that you can develop? Absolutely. It takes time, right? I would say the way that I cracked into the sales is through my network, right? If I haven't had that network of the rich network of my corporate world, and even now the new network, friends that I make today. For example, one thing I learned was, yes, it's good to attend the conferences like RSA and make new connections and whatnot. But lately, what I realized is attending the local events. Matter of fact, the ISSA, where you and I met a couple of months ago, right? Like that, I just came back from NC Gov cybersecurity and data privacy conference last week, for example, and I made a lot of new connections there, right, into the public sector, if you will. So, and then I started attending in neighboring states small events like this. So, these attending these small events, I would say, I mean, don't get me wrong, RSA is great. But I would say you get more value for the bucks attending these small events happening regionally than, happening, national, worldwide RSA event. So I would say, to answer your question, I would say going into these events and making these point connections, whether you may see a potential, the client there, maybe a potential partner there, maybe a VAD partner where you can make a connection, or maybe, you connect with the, CISOs that can give you good feedback. If you're not trying to sell anything to them, and if you ask them, hey, this is what we got, what do you think? I mean, they give you the candid feedback to you. And I have gotten so much of that, I would say. And those things I always take and, come back to the office and, we implement those capabilities and go back and we look good in front of the net new customers that we're trying to prospect, right? So back to your question, how we do this, we constantly go to these events and meet with the folks that make difference with us and then take the feedback. We always make sure that our ears are wide open to listen to the feedback. I know we came a long, long way here in the last 3 years building this platform, no doubt about it. In terms of the stability and look and feel and the horsepower as well. But none of this would have been possible without having these small nuggets of feedback that we received from our
Very good. And one of the things I like that you mentioned the smaller conferences, because one of the things I think the value of the smaller conferences compared to RSAs and Black Hat and all these, there's just so much distraction, so much going on in trying to get someone's attention for any amount of time, because I mean, there's a lot to take in for them. So I really see then just be able to spend more time with people, I think is valuable compared to trying to meet up with a bunch of people compared to finding, a smaller audience and getting more quality time.
I mean, it's nothing wrong there. You definitely have to attend those big things too, if you're ready for that, right? For example, I have seen, Snehal running a, big show, right? at RSA this year, right? Probably, we'll do that too very soon here, hopefully, right? Touch wood. But yeah, I mean, it's just a point in time where you are. But based on where we are, I think we are getting more value for the buck attending these smaller conferences than the bigger one.
Very good. Yeah, there's so many conferences out there, and so it's good to, like I share with a lot of people that I mentor, the conferences you go to and the different security group meetings, you need to kind of diversify because each one provides a special value. I mean, because whereas if you're going to recruit people, then your Black Hat or DEF CON or B-Sides conference is a good place to recruit. But if you're trying to sell the product, it's not necessarily the B-Sides or DEF CON crowd that's going to be buying your product. So it's good to have that diversity in your network.
Absolutely.
So as far as your team goes, how has that been to build out the team for your startup?
I would say that it all started 2 years ago with my good friend of mine who sits on my advisory board now. He's a CISO at a big corporation. Him and I are the ones who actually started this whole thing. Right? Again, he's only in the advisory capacity, just to let you know, FYI. But then, we started building and, bringing in the new folks. And I would say, yes, we have a senior advisor, but at the same time, I always look for the young and upcoming, graduates or, somebody that has only 2 or 3 years of experience who has the hungry to do something new and innovative. I would say predominantly most of my team members are pretty junior because I know, put them into this agile space and, we jazz them up and they are doing magic here. Whether it is, building the capabilities into the platform or, innovating. For example, a couple of guys that we have on the team are really, really instrumental in building our, Gen AI capabilities into our platform. It's just amazing to see the enthusiasm and the energy that they bring onto the table. I'm not saying that, experienced folks who won't be as that, but it's just that given where we are pretty early in a young company, right? Especially this platform, only 2.5 years, right? Of course, officially only 1 year. I would say, one thing what I realized was, sure enough, I made that. Actually, I had a good senior guy, 10 plus years, and that guy didn't last too long with me. I would say, but anyway, not to say anything bad thing, but he's a great guy. But it's a different mindset, if you will, in terms of the expectations and the energy, right? But when you have these young guys and you just give them, this is my vision, this is what we're looking into, and then I take my guys into my local conference as well, and then when they hear all of those things from the evangelists. And then, I feed them into these are the capabilities that our customers are asking. This is what we got to build. I mean, they do amazing things on the team. So I'm so lucky to have these young guys on the team that are making a difference in building the capabilities of what we need for the Cape platform.
I think that's great to see that you're bringing in the people that are newer in the industry, because sometimes it's not the easiest for some of those folks. I mean, some of them are really talented, can find jobs easily, but it's nice. And I do think that's a great way to take advantage of people that are still hungry and motivated to bring them in, because as people get older, they just they're getting down towards the end of their career. They're just not as motivated anymore. And to have people motivated makes a big difference. And I'm sure it kind of helps your culture as well to have a team of motivated individuals.
Absolutely. I can say a couple of every team member is pretty instrumental, I would say. I'm not going to discount anybody on the team, but specifically calling out Nicole on my team and Sahid. And these guys are doing amazing things, and Touchwood, we are in the process of, filing a patent as well with the amazing thing that these guys are coming up with.
Yeah. And also, since you mentioned AI, that you're using AI in your product, that's kind of the new hot technology, or maybe not so much new, but just more accessible to people, becoming more available now. So how is that helping your product? How are you leveraging AI in your product?
That's a great question you asked me. Again, I'm not going to go deep into my platform. That's maybe for the different conversation, but we have fundamentally 5 use cases in our platform. I'm just going to mention them at a high level. Everybody in the security needs to start with a scanner. So obviously we got one too, right? Start off with the discovery and then classify the data classification. And third one is, data anomaly detection and response. Fourth one is compliance. And fifth one is, governance, right? So especially the third one, right, the use case that I just mentioned, data anomaly detection and response. That's where we see a heavy applicability of the responsible AI and explainable AI, right? So we identified all of these different anomaly patterns. You and I know, right? Going back to this, we have several patterns in anomalies, right? We took a list of all of those anomalies, right? And then we started writing the ML models for each one of these anomalies. And then we have plenty of data, lucky enough, and then wherever we had shortfalls, we ended up building the data ourselves. And then once we built the data, we trained these ML models using this anomaly pattern model data. And so and then we're making these models as a very well greased ML models that can identify those respective anomalies. We built about 25 to 30 anomalies so far, and then the list goes on and on. All we have to do now is once we plug in our platform into the customer's environment, we just make the customer's data flow through our platform, and we can quickly identify where these, if any of these anomalies, unstructured anomalies falls into, that we can identify the anomalies in the customer's environment, right? And there are, some of them that we can flag them based on the explainable AI, right? Whether it is an interoperability or model visualization and so on and so forth. And then on the other side, leveraging our responsible AI, right? Following the ethics, fairness, and accountability and privacy and whatnot. We are leveraging all of these models that we built in, and then the data that we built in that we train, so that we don't have to train with the customer's data at all. We just simply plug and play. We plug our platform into the customer's environment, boom, as the data flows through our platform, we are easily be able to identify these ethical anomaly detections in the customer's environment. So that's hugely helping us out. That's where we have the patent technology that we're currently working on. And in terms of the implementation, it's already done. It's already deployed with the customer, a couple of customers. So we're going to roll that out to the rest of the customers early next year.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting and promising to see what AI is going to do for us. I mean, just the availability to scale more. I mean, you being a force multiplier, because there's been for so many years, security teams have been shorthanded, and to be able to, multiply your efforts and in a quicker fashion and overcome some of those budget restrictions of staff.
Absolutely. I mean, just to go over one more step here, right? As we build these ML models, as the data comes through, and then it just output comes out of these models, and then we detect these anomalies. And then guess what? We actually going all in to integrate that with any of the LLMs out there in the market, right? So that, you can clearly get the remediation in a human read format back to you. So that's how far we went in. And our goal here is to not only auto detect and provide the remediation, as also we want to go all the way to actually auto correcting the problem as well. But that's on the roadmap for now. But luckily we are able to go all the way to, not only identifying the anomalies, but also plugging them into the LLMs so that we can get the explainable text, the human readable text that anybody can understand. But in terms of the auto correction, those capabilities on our roadmap.
Yeah, sound very, very fascinating. So we're getting down towards the end of the episode. Is there anything you'd like to share we didn't discuss?
So no, I would say, first of all, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule here, Philip. Really appreciate this. One thing, if I have to put a simple plug for our platform or for our team, I would say data security. Of course, every part of the cybersecurity is important, but the data security is so important given the day and the age that we're living in, and you clearly see what's happening in this space. So, but my concern here is some of the customers are still not being proactive in adopting the data security. They're still in that reactive mode, and look everything what happened in Deloitte day before yesterday, right? And look into the United Healthcare, and then look into AT&T. I mean, we can go on and on with all the list, but all of those problems and all of these breaches, if you look into, All of that can really be avoided if you have something like DSPM platform in place. Absolutely, you need other solutions as well, but having DSPM is so critical because breaches are happening, data breaches are happening on an average one a day, in my opinion. Not everyone is coming out and declaring. You know how that game works, right? Not everyone will be vocal to tell to the rest of the world, but so given this problem, I would say I urge that everyone out there to make this data privacy and data protection as a proactive thing rather than being reactive, and try to adopt the capabilities into your organization.
Yeah, I agree. People and companies need to get to be proactive instead of reactive. I mean, proactive is a lot less painful than reactive.
That's what I meant to say. Absolutely. Did I say the other way around? I'm sorry if I said that.
No. You were talking about, a lot of companies are reactive, but just kind of summarizing what you said and just kind of, it's great to hear what you're doing there. And I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be on the podcast. It was an honor to have you on today.
Excellent. Phillip, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the Phillip Wylie Show. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, to learn more about Phillip, go to thehackermaker.com and connect with him on LinkedIn and Twitter @Phillip Wylie. Until next time.